Florida's victory over Florida Atlantic. These are wins that look like losses. You're playing teams that you should outclass by miles and miles and miles, and you beat them by a ton, or you should beat them by a ton. But what ends up happening is you end up in a needlessly close game. You're constantly underachieving. I understand that you've got some injuries there, but Florida should never struggle against Florida Atlantic. And not only did they struggle, they almost lost. That win, that should just be an L right there. That should just count as a loss. And the committee clearly thinks so because Florida dropped all the way out the rankings, not like out the top 10. They just didn't deserve to be there, and it was obvious. So if you can have wins that look like losses and the committee is penalizing you for it, then surely you can have losses that at least look like near wins. Notre Dame almost beat Clemson. It was close and competitive. And they're not going to have a shot. So we'll talk with Bill about those things and more here on Clutch with Keon Rose. Thursdays with Bill, our national college football writer, coming up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming life.
Happy holidays
at the Woodhouse.
from the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
Tax-free investing, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. Patrick will be giving a seminar December 10 at 6 o'clock and offering free barbecue dinner. His topic will be tax-free investing. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. We'll be talking about strategies in reducing your tax burden and in buying municipal bonds. Call 870-7894. That's 870-7894. Edward Jones and your host will be Patrick Neal, making sense of investing.
I love my Flex Loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex Loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex Loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome.
Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center, Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine. Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of sunshine out there through the afternoon. Looking good, but chilly with a breeze out of the north. High struggling to hit 50. Tonight, clear. Cold and frosty overnight, lows 30 to 32. For Friday, another great-looking day. Lots of sun, mid-50s, a little warmer with more sun on Saturday. This forecast is brought to you by JCPenney. Right now, find great deals at JCPenney's Friends and Family Sale. Download their app for coupons and to sign up for JCPenney Rewards. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a lot to talk about, especially in the world of college football. It never stops. It never stops, especially the coaching carousel in the SEC. That has been an ongoing thing for about 2 weeks now. And I was telling Bill off the air that nothing surprises me anymore. Okay, Mark Richt at Georgia for 15 years, and then he's gone, and he's headed to Miami. So to help me talk about that is Bill Bender. Thursdays with Bill, the Sporting News national college football writer, is joining us for, we're coming down to the end of the season here, so I don't know how many times we've got left with you, Bill, but thank you for joining us today.
Oh, yeah, we can talk during the off season. That's fine. It's a pleasure to be on, and heading into conference championship weekend, it should be a fun weekend.
It should, and there's a few things on the line here. Let's just talk about the SEC title game a little bit. The Gators and the Crimson Tide face off, and there's a possible nightmare scenario in this game, which is that Florida wins.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, if Alabama loses this game, the SEC better prepare for the reality that it will get shut out of the playoff. I don't see two-loss Alabama team getting in, especially with what's behind them. But I don't think they have to worry about that. I mean, Florida's only scored 55 points the last 4 weeks. The offense has struggled. Alabama's really hit their stride. You can anticipate Derrick Henry getting a bunch of carries, and a lot of people predicting that to be the bloodbath. I think it might be a little bit tighter than that, but it obviously should favor the Tide.
I think so also. Derrick Henry has been amazing, but Florida gets Antonio Morrison back on defense. Does that help them at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, Florida's defense, they're going to have to hold Alabama to, I would say, like 17 points, and then hope their offense gets a couple plays in there, maybe gets a defensive score. It would have to be a 21-17 type game for Florida to win. And Morrison's presence will help. I mean, and Florida's defense is legit, but can their offense string together enough drives? And I know it's one of those tired cliches, but Florida will really have to get off to a good start, because if they don't, Alabama could blow that thing open by halftime.
Especially with Derrick Henry. I mean, he's been beyond a workhorse at this point. He's averaging 31 carries a game. You have a lead and you're Alabama, you just turn around and give it to him.
Yeah, they can milk clock with him, and that limits the mistakes for Jake Coker in that passing game. And it's just Alabama's system, man. They've had it going like that for a long time. I think Derrick Henry's the best of Nick Saban's running backs, at least for the system they have now. And, you could make a Heisman Trophy statement on Saturday, and that's something he could do. So, I mean, it's a really good Alabama team, and Florida's up against it on Saturday. But, again, anything can happen on Conference Championship weekend.
Just changing gears here. We're talking to Bill Bender, the Sporting News national college football writer. Nick Saban's developing himself a little nice coaching tree situation, and Kirby Smart heading to Georgia to replace Mark Richt is going to be the latest of it.
How do you think Kirby's going to do in Georgia trying to fill the shoes of Mark Richt?
Well, I mean, that's a tough job to fill in. I mean, Georgia, obviously, the impatience of not winning a national championship since 1980. I mean, it's been since Herschel Walker. That's how long it's been. And, Kirby Smart should do a good job there. As Nick Saban's number one right-hand man, whatever you want to call him, over the past 7 years, he's probably learned a lot. He's in a situation where Georgia's just a great area for high school football recruiting, so he should be able to recruit well. He should be able to have success in the SEC East, and it'll be interesting to see how he would do head-to-head against Saban. And like you said, Nick Saban's produced quite a few coaches, and the funny thing is they're returning to the SEC kind of like McElwain did, and it's one of those deals where, will Lane Kiffin be next is what I'm wondering.
I know that Mark Richt leaving obviously affects recruiting. Jason Eason, the QB commit to Georgia, is considering going to Miami with Mark Richt. But how big of impact is the recruiting going to be affected by Mark Richt's departure?
I mean, at least in the short term, probably a little bit, but they're committing to Georgia, not the coach. You always hear recruits say that, and a lot of them do commit to the coach. But if Kirby Smart, he'll have his work to do the first few months on the job, but once he gets a full recruiting cycle, I mean, recruiting in the SEC, he's probably learned a lot from Alabama, who is consistently at the top of those things. So I think Kirby Smart's recruiting will be fine. I think Mark Richt, Florida's recruiting could take off. I really think they're going to, he'll make an immediate impact in that regard with the Hurricanes.
Les Miles has had a heck of a year. He started the season with a weather situation that canceled the first game of the season. Then there was the floods in Louisiana. And then, of course, the weird thing where the boosters tried to force him out, but then they couldn't, and he was carried off the field, and it just got weird. What do you think about that whole situation in LSU?
I think it was botched. I mean, they should have just kept it quiet if they were going to get rid of him. And now it's one of those deals where Les Miles has a little bit of, I don't know what the word is, maybe like leash, because, I mean, you basically embarrassed him for a week, and now you're going to keep him based on one game. And it'll be interesting to see that bowl game, by the way, because it looks like, a lot of the reports are saying they're going to play Michigan, and that will be a fun bowl game to watch, by the way. But I think next season the pressure's on him to get this offense going, and more than just off tackle to Leonard Fournette or sweep to Leonard Fournette. They really need to see some development out of the quarterback, especially with the receivers they've had. So I think that's where the pressure will be on Les Miles next season. Obviously, he's back, but how much faith will be in him against all those things that they'll be against next year in that same loaded division?
And another thing to note about LSU is because that has been one of the criticisms of Les Miles, right? Like that his offenses haven't been very creative. Is there any solution to that? Is there anybody that they can bring on to try and just straighten that out?
I mean, they've switched quarterback or coordinators before. I mean, they just need better play out of the quarterback. I mean, you go back to their last national championship, I believe Matt Flynn won them a national title, and he's probably the best quarterback Les Miles has had. And, since then, maybe Zach Mettenberger for 1 year, but I mean, in general, if you just look at it, it's poor. So whatever they need to do, whoever they need to bring in, they do need better play on that. And because they've got all the other pieces, they always have a good recruiting class. They've got athletes all over that defense. They always have good receivers. Leonard Fournette, another year, a good offensive line. They've got all the pieces to do the things they need to do, but it's going to come down to better quarterback play if that saves Les Miles' job, because he's already on the hot seat 2016. I mean, there's no way he's not.
Do you think that the problem with the quarterbacking is he's not recruiting good enough quarterbacks, or the quarterbacks just simply not being developed very well?
No, I mean, I think it's more the second end. I mean, they've had good recruits come in there, and a couple of them have transferred, and a couple just didn't pan out. I mean, you look at it, it goes back to, I suppose, I'm trying to think if Jamarcus Russell was one of Les Miles' recruits. I can't remember for sure. But, you can go back that far or go to Matt Flynn and say, these guys should be better than they are, at least in recent years. I mean, he did go to a BCS championship game with Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee at quarterback, and their numbers were terrible that year. So it's the one thing holding them back from maybe having 3 or 4 national championships, and you can just flip it over to Alabama. I mean, they don't have the greatest quarterbacks, but they have some of the best game managers. When you go back to McCarron, McElroy, even Jake Coker's doing a good job of that this year. That's Blake Sims last year. I mean, that's been if you want to know what the difference is between Alabama and LSU the last 5 years, it's not any other position but quarterback.
That's huge. We're talking to Bill Bender, Sporting News national college football writer. He joins us every Thursday. And let's get into some of these rumors here, because Will Muschamp has been attached to South Carolina. And, do you know anything about that?
I have not heard anything on that. I mean, you're seeing the rumors now, and I mean, obviously some of the reports are credible, so I'm sure that's being kicked around. I'm surprised that South Carolina has taken this long to name a head coach, or either that or they maybe have been turned down by a few people, and that's just not getting reported. Because they missed out on a chance at Richt. It looks like they missed out on Kirby Smart. I guess Muschamp fits decently. I mean, that's just the way the SEC seems to do it. I mean, they just find another assistant and then just kind of switch around programs. I've always found that interesting. But if they did turn to Will Muschamp, I mean, it'd be all right. The defense would be good. He's a good recruiter. But they'd obviously, same thing we just talked about with LSU, they obviously need to have a better offense than he did at Florida, because that just wasn't working.
I'd like to ask you about Lane Kiffin, because at this point, Lane Kiffin's name has been attached to a few jobs, but I feel like at this point, Lane Kiffin is like Chip Kelly. His name is just attached to everything, and he might be attached to the 76ers job. Who even knows? But have you heard anything about that?
I don't know if he could save the Sixers, but or the Lakers for that matter. But he's going to coach again sometime. I don't know if it'll be next year, but given the fact that some of the bigger openings have been filled, I mean, like, I don't see Lane Kiffin going to, I'm trying to think of a couple of the other openings off the top of my head. I mean, I don't see him going to anywhere but a big time program when he takes his next job. Like, he's not going to go coach North Texas. So, we're going to see him on the sideline sooner rather than later. And again, I mean, he deserves credit for the job he's done at Alabama the last few years with that offense. He's done a nice job as a coordinator.
That's true. We're gonna shift here to the college football playoff committee, because you had some thoughts on that, and I was reading it on sportingnews.com, and we're talking to Bill Bender, Sporting News national college football writer. You have some thoughts about North Carolina. If North Carolina were to beat Clemson, they still wouldn't make it in. You don't believe?
I don't think they would. I think they should, but I don't think they will. Just because of, Ohio State sitting right there, and you always hear the committee talk about 4 best teams, and that phrase always comes up, and I'm just kind of doing it on my head and thinking, if Ohio State played North Carolina, Ohio State would be favored. I mean, 100% in my mind that would be the case. But, I mean, it will depend on a few things. I mean, North Carolina, if they come out and beat Clemson 48-0, then yeah, they'll be in. But there's a lot that goes into Championship Saturday. I just thought that I thought they would be ranked higher Tuesday, and that with them sitting at 10, that's a big jump from 10 to 4, no matter what you do on Saturday.
Isn't it a little bit crazy how Oklahoma's jumped into the top 4 after the Big 12 looking like nobody might get in?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's a reason. To me, that's why this 4-team setup works. I mean, last year the Big 12 was out, the Big 10 got in at the last minute, and this year the Big 12 is definitely in. Oklahoma's definitely in. That day, whether they're 3 or 4, I don't know, or even 2. And the Big 10's in. No matter what happens, I think with Michigan State, Iowa, one of those teams is going. So that's what makes it exciting to me. I mean, it kind of a little bit of a role reversal from last year, and it allows the Big 12 to kind of. I still think they need a conference championship game down the line, but at least this year they got away with it.
Just really quickly, could you tell me about Michigan State and Iowa? That game obviously has got a lot of ramifications with it, and that could be, the key in getting Ohio State back into the top 4. What do you think about that game?
Well, it's going to be a good one. It'll be close. I mean, they both play, interior football, both their offensive lines, defensive lines, and they run the football well, and they've got a couple good decision makers at quarterback, and Connor Cook and C.J. Beathard, so I anticipate a 1-score game in Indianapolis, and favors the Spartans a little bit just because they've been there, done that. This is their 3rd time there under D'Antonio, and kind of a culmination of what he's built there in East Lansing. I think the Spartans are going to win this game.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I've got for you today, Bill. But thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time and your insight.
Hey, thanks, Keon. Those were good questions, man. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Enjoy your Saturday, sir.
Thank you.
That's Bill Bender, Sporting News National College Football writer, joins us every Thursdays with Bill. I'm going to have to come up with some nice offseason questions because, like, for me, college football ends and I don't start to readdress it until spring. Same thing for baseball. Like, the season ends and I'm done. Like, I don't call me when pitchers and catchers report to camp. I don't want to hear anything else about it. That's how I go because I have the rest of the sports world. Like, why would I worry about off-season things when I could just watch what's left of the NFL and then watch what's left of the NBA and college basketball? So, I mean, I've got to stop doing that. Like, I really have just got to broaden my horizons there, become a more open-minded person. I got to do the heavy lifting so that you guys don't have to. That's how this works. I figure out the sports stuff and then I tell you so you don't have to do it. Or you could do it. You could call the show. 800-8949 is the Hot News Talk Radio line. I'd love to hear from you. We can have a conversation. We can talk. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, and we've got an interesting story to wrap up the show next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We live in uncertain times. From extreme weather and natural disasters to civil unrest, don't panic. Be prepared. With protective gear and medical supplies, tactical and camping equipment, long-term food storage and water purification, ammunition and knives, alternative power solutions and lighting, P5 Preparedness has the products and training classes to help you through life's catastrophic events. P5 Preparedness at East Brainerd and Panorama Drive.
Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center's Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike just north of the Thrasher Light with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Saudi Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call, 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook. At Wimpy's, I know your mouth is watering just like mine. So let's go to Wimpy's.
This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, and it's time for more Ben Simmons talk. Okay, I'm excited about SEC basketball this year. I'm not as excited about LSU as I was at the beginning, because like I saw LSU's early games. Ben Simmons, Antonio Blakeney are the two players you should probably look out for because they play so well. Blakeney is the explosive one. He's small, but I mean, that guy can get up. I've never seen a team consistently throw alley-oops to a guy that height. I think Antonio Blakeney's my height. He's 5'10". I mean, that dude can jump out the gym. And then Ben Simmons, who isn't as explosive, but he's so well-rounded, fills out a stat sheet like nobody else. And Ben Simmons yesterday did something absolutely amazing and that only 3 other people have done, which is he scored 40 points and 10 rebounds in a game in the last 20 seasons. The only freshmen who have done something like that, Jared Sullinger, Michael Beasley, and Tyler Hansbrough. That's not bad company. That's not bad company at all. Those are some great college players. Ben Simmons joins them, and to me, I watch Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons is the ultimate quiet assassin. And by that, I mean, you're looking at him, okay, it doesn't look like he's doing anything. And then you look at the stats, he's got 40 points and 10 rebounds. Like he's not explosive. Ben Simmons is one of those guys, he doesn't instantly pass the eye test. You see the eye test. It's basically like, look, I'm looking at the game. I know good play when I see good play. I'm not relying on any data. I'm not relying on any numbers. This is just, this guy looks good. Passes the eye test. Ben Simmons does pass the eye test initially. Eventually. You have to watch enough, but if you watch enough, he does pass the eye test. Eventually. But initially, Ben Simmons is not the fastest guy. He doesn't jump the highest. He's not shooting daggers from all over the floor. Okay, like we've had that happen where you can see that guy that shoots daggers from everywhere. Steph Curry is that guy. When Steph Curry played at Davidson and Davidson came and played UTC, people came to watch Steph because he passes that version of the eye test. He's that guy. Like that guy crosses half court and you're afraid he could make a shot from anywhere. Once he crosses half court, he's in range. He can make a shot from anywhere. He's that guy. You don't see that from Simmons. Simmons is not that dude. What Simmons does well is like everything. He's like a jack of all trades, a master of none. He's so good at everything that you're not seeing his greatness because you're not seeing him excel at anything in particular. But he's such an adept scorer when he wants to be. He's a willing passer, and he sees the floor well. He's making passes that, honestly, other college players not making these passes. It's just not happening. Okay? And he's taking this game to another level. He's taking it to another level. And I'm very impressed by him. I can't help but be impressed by Ben Simmons anytime I see him play. You know, I watch this guy play, and I'm trying to think of another person like him that just like silently racks up points. I've never seen that before. Like LeBron doesn't even though, because LeBron will silently rack up everything else. Like LeBron will get 1 million rebounds. He'll end a game with 15 rebounds and 9 assists, and you didn't realize it. But you are aware when LeBron James scores. Like when he scores. That's not a secret at all. Like LeBron is not someone who can be hidden on the floor. Okay, he doesn't look unimpressive scoring the basketball. Like that he's the most dominant force in basketball when motivated and when healthy.
So no, I mean, we know when LeBron is scoring. So I can't think of a guy like that. Like Wiggins maybe, but that's because Wiggins is kind of passive. Simmons isn't passive. He just does things silently. But he's always aggressive. He's got a great motor. He's always moving forward. I can't think of another person quite like that. And I think this is probably my problem with the eye test, is that it is so unscientific in nature that I dislike it. Okay? Going with your gut is not a good way to analyze sports. And we do it all the time. Just roll with your gut. There are no numbers here. We're just playing it by ear. Okay? And we're so used to it that we've built a system around it. Okay, I was talking to Bill Bender just a segment ago, Sporting News National College Football writer Bill Bender, about the eye test, basically, because that's the College Football Playoff Committee. That's what they're doing. It's a giant eye test. Almost none of these teams are playing one another, and you're supposed to decide which teams are the best teams and which teams aren't. Just by looking, okay, so the committee looks at more game tape than the rest of us. Okay, I don't have hours and hours and hours to dedicate to all that game tape because, unfortunately, I cover more sports than just college football, and I don't cover Big Ten football, so there's no need for me to sit down and watch every Michigan State game. But despite the fact that you watch more football, it's still just an eye test. You're still watching a game and going, this is what I feel in my gut. And it's a good thing that they have a lot of people on the committee, 12 people, so that there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of disagreeing. There is a whole committee situation there. But it's, to me, I don't know that you've necessarily perfected this playoff situation. And I don't think that adding more teams is going to fix it, because you're still doing a giant eye test. What I want to see, because fine, if we have to do the eye test, I don't want to fight the system. I don't want to tear it down and burn it to the ground necessarily. But if we have to do the eye test, let's play between leagues. Let's have the Big Ten play the SEC. Okay, it's a great idea. It makes a lot of sense, because then if you're doing the eye test, at least you're doing the eye test with teams that are playing one another. Teams that are playing each other. This is not novel, okay? This is not a great new idea. To me, this is a great idea. Brett Bielema was probably the most vocal person for it, but honestly, especially if we're going to expand the playoff, especially if it's eventually going to get to 6, maybe even 8 teams, then it becomes more important to try and figure out who's better than who. And you can't do that if all of the Pac-12 teams are playing other Pac-12 teams. They might maybe play one other team outside their conference, and then we're supposed to determine if this Pac-12 team that's been really good in the Pac-12 can beat anybody in the SEC. It's rough. It's rough. I don't know if this is the way to go, if we're going to keep saying that we're choosing the best 2 teams in college football. You know, last year, there was a lot of wreckage, there was a lot of carnage, there was a lot of mayhem. But by the time we got to the national title game, I felt like the best 2 teams in college football were playing one another. Oregon and Ohio State were the best 2 teams. And Ohio State absolutely dismantled Oregon, for sure. Cardale Jones looked brilliant. But ultimately, I don't know if that's going to happen every year. We're going to have the 2 teams that are the absolute best. And we're absolutely sure of it, because we don't necessarily see these teams play one another. We don't know. We don't know what their strength is compared to another conference. And that's bizarre to me, that we're just willing to just lay back and go, you know what? It feels right. A group of people in a room somewhere said this feels right, and so we're just going to roll with it. that doesn't make any sense. It's an important decision too. Like if someone, you wouldn't manage your money that way. Someone is just in a room, group of people in a room are telling you, this feels right. Invest in this, invest in that, and you're just gonna trust some random people that you don't know with very important decisions, and they're going on their gut. No, if you are getting investment advice from people, they're going to have numbers, they're going to have stats, they're going to have data. The market is trending up, the market is trending down. Don't invest here because list of reasons. We don't do things with enough data. And sometimes our only stat that we like to use is wins and losses, which is unbelievable because there's so many things that go into a win and a loss. There should be extra data for that. There are so many ups and downs. There should be extra data for that. We talked about it in the first segment. Sometimes there are wins that look like losses. Basically, Florida for the month of November. Every win that they had, that looks like a loss. That Florida Atlantic victory, there was a little bit of referee help and overtime. That looked like a loss. Can't score any touchdowns against Vanderbilt. That looks like a loss. Okay, that's victories that there are no moral victories. No, there are a few, and there's certainly moral losses. That was a loss. We've got to have more advanced statistics than just winning and losing. There's more to this onion than that. Thank you for listening to me today. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I'll see you in 23 hours.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the